In the first rays of the morning sun, countless vampires were incinerated into charcoal by the sunlight. A smoking Irishman knocked on the door of a white couple's house. He claimed to be hunted by Native Americans and took out gold coins to beg them to take him in. The couple both disliked Native Americans and coveted the gold coins, so they agreed to shelter him and help drive away the pursuing Native Americans.
He's not what he seems. God forbid you let him into your home.
The hostess breathed a sigh of relief after watching them leave. Unexpectedly, the man was actually a vampire. Seeing that her husband Bert had been silent, she couldn't help going to the bedroom to check, only to find the Irishman with bloodstains around his mouth, and Bert, who was lying on the ground, slowly got up and was also assimilated into a vampire. The woman let out a terrified scream. This Irish vampire Remick was a bard. Coincidentally, the assimilated couple also loved playing music, so the three formed a trio of wandering musical poets. In the evening, they were attracted by a beautiful melody and slowly approached a black bar. Some people were born with the talent to create the purest joy through music. That kind of music could summon the souls of the past and future. In ancient Ireland they were called Fili. Among the Choctaw people they were called firekeepers. In West Africa they were called griots. This gift could heal the tribe, but it also attracted evil beings like vampires. The following story took place in 1932. Although slavery was abolished in 1865, racial segregation still existed in the American South. The Mississippi Delta region had the densest cotton plantations in the U.S., serving as a special geographic and cultural center for African Americans and the birthplace of all blues music. A pair of black brothers had just returned to their hometown. The one wearing a red hat is named Stack and the one in a blue hat is named Smoke. They are twin brothers, exactly the owners of that music bar. A few days ago they bought an abandoned old sawmill from a white man. The owner was not only full of questions but also had a poor attitude. The brothers revealed the pistols tucked in their waistbands and bluntly said, "We have money and bullets, you don't need to talk so much." Additionally, the two specifically warned the owner, "After you take the money, you and your clan brothers must never set foot here again." The so-called Ku Klux Klan is a white supremacist group in American history. The brothers intended to transform this abandoned factory into a blues bar exclusively for black people. They also planned to invite their cousin Sammy to be the resident singer at the bar. Sammy's life was simple. During the day he picked cotton for the plantation with his mother, and occasionally attended church services for black people with his pastor father, but his true passion was playing the guitar and singing. However, his pastor father had always opposed his son's involvement in music, believing that only drunkards listened to guitar music. Moreover, the locals believed that overly piercing singing could highly likely attract demons, but Sammy ignored these rumors and immediately jumped into his cousin's car. He envied his two brothers for having been to Chicago, where he had heard that black people could freely enter any place. Smoke told his cousin that those were all lies. Chicago was just another Mississippi, except that plantations had been replaced by skyscrapers. That's why they chose to return to their hometown. To get the bar open tonight, the two brothers planned to split up. Smoke drove a truck to the busy downtown area and called over a little girl on the sidewalk to help watch the truck, telling her to honk the horn immediately if anyone approached. Afterward, Smoke would pay her 20 cents an hour. The little girl happily got into the truck to keep watch, while Smoke walked into a shop owned by an Asian boss named John to order 100 servings of catfish. John was about to quip, "Did you hit the jackpot in Chicago?" When he heard the horn blaring outside, Smoke immediately pulled out his pistol and shot the thief in the butt. Upon closer inspection, the thief turned out to be an old acquaintance, Terry. The little girl guarding the truck accused him. "He knew it was your truck but still tried to steal it." Terry quickly interjected, "I thought the kid was lying. Aren't you brothers working for Capone in Chicago?" Capone was a notorious American gangster who headed the Chicago Mafia from 1925 to 1931, which also explained where the brothers got their startup capital. Without a word, Smoke fired a shot at Terry's accomplice, because only by making it clear that the twin brothers weren't to be messed with could their business avoid a lot of trouble. However, Smoke wouldn't mistreat his own people. He turned around and stuffed a sum of money into John's hand, asking him to find a doctor for Terry. In addition, Smoke paid John's wife Grace to make a sign for his bar. He also bought flowers from the shop to visit his prematurely deceased son and his former lover Annie. Annie made a living by selling herbs for hoodoo of hoodoo's witchcraft, a form of folk magic practiced by African American communities. Therefore, she hated the dirty money Smoke had earned in Chicago and refused to accept his help, though the two still loved each other deeply, but Smoke only believed in money and power. He had come this time to ask Annie to be the chef for his bar. Meanwhile, Sammy had a question he'd been holding in for a long time and finally found a chance to ask his cousin. He wanted to know if the two brothers had really killed their biological father. Stack, seeing that Sammy was already an adult, told him, "Back then Dad knocked me out. When I woke up, Smoke was already halfway through burying him, although patricide sounded horrifying it was." Only after that Stack escaped domestic violence. Laughing and chatting, the two arrived at the train station and found a street performer named Anthony. Stack wanted to invite him to perform at the tavern that night. He could earn $20 for the night. Anthony said, "I have to go to Messenger Tavern tonight. Although I can't make $20 there, it's stable. It's been standing strong for over a decade. Who knows how many days the Twins Tavern will last." Anthony didn't dare take the risk lightly. Stack knew it wouldn't be easy to convince the other man, but he had come prepared. Anthony was a genuine old drunkard, and Stack had Irish beer shipped directly from Chicago's north side. Anthony had only ever drunk corn liquor in his life. How could he resist the aroma of malt? Stack said, "I've got 500 more bottles of this stuff back there. I'll pay you $40 a night and the beer will definitely be unlimited." Unable to resist the temptation of good alcohol, Anthony immediately agreed. Just then Sammy noticed a white woman staring at Stack, and she was walking straight toward them. It turned out that this white woman named Mary had once had a romance with Stack, but she had been cruelly abandoned. Mary had grown up in black circles. Her mother had also taken good care of the twins, so Mary resented Stack for his heartlessness. After driving away his old lover in a fit of anger, Stack left with Anthony. On the road they encountered a group of prisoners doing forced labor. One of them even greeted Anthony. Anthony couldn't help but tell the story of him and his brother Rice. The two had once made a living in the Delta region, but they were arrested for vagrancy. After the white sheriffs discovered their singing and dancing talents, they blindfolded Anthony and others and took them to a white mansion to perform. They made a fortune in tips from this job. Rice planned to take the money to Little Rock and open a small church, but he was spotted by a conductor on the train. The Ku Klux Klan caught him red-handed, falsely accusing Rice of killing a white man for money and raping his wife. Rice's money was stripped from him, and he was hanged on the spot at the train station. The two in the car fell silent after hearing this, overwhelmed by indescribable sorrow. Shortly after, Stack parked the car at the plantation and called out to a man named Matty, wanting to hire him as the bar's doorman. Everything was ready. The brothers finally opened the bar by their target time. Their bar attracted a large crowd of black people with nowhere else to socialize, but unlike white people, most of them didn't have much money, and some even paid with wooden chips. During the Great Depression, some local governments and businesses issued wooden nickels as temporary tokens, which had no intrinsic monetary value. Smoke was dissatisfied. They weren't running a charity, but Stack and Annie agreed that this wasn't Chicago, and those humble wooden chips were still hard-earned by others. These people worked all day in the fields, so if they came here to spend money, they deserved to enjoy themselves. If they wanted the business to thrive, they had to make customers feel the bar was made for them. Amid the bustling crowd of black people, Mary was the only white-skinned person. Her grandfather was biracial, and her late mother had been the twins' midwife. Now that the brothers had enough money to buy an entire sawmill, they hadn't even sent a single flower to her funeral. Mary couldn't let this go. Unexpectedly, Stack had good intentions. If white people knew Mary was still associating with him, they would kill her. That's why Stack had broken up with her heartlessly, found her a wealthy white husband, and even given a farm as a dowry. But Mary had been waiting faithfully for Stack to return. Just then Anthony finished his set and it was Sammy's turn to perform. Sammy's singing could pierce the veil between life and death, connecting the past and the future. So if you look closely at this bar concert, you can see the black musical traditions of the past, glimpse future rock and rap, and even spot Eastern elements like peaking opera. Souls of music across time gathered, gradually pushing the event to a climax. But while Sammy's music could heal the tribe, it was also bound to attract evil. When Matty noticed Remick and other white faces approaching, he immediately tensed up and had someone fetch the twin brothers. Although the twins didn't know the three were vampires, their bar didn't welcome white people, so they turned away the uninvited guests. But the vampire Remick didn't give up easily. Instead, he waited outside the bar with the couple Kate and Bert. The twins soon forgot about this incident, as they had lost a lot of money that night. Everyone from the plantation had paid with tokens on credit. If this continued, their savings would be gone within 2 months. When Mary heard about this, she volunteered to talk to the three white people, hoping she might help earn some extra money. The twins' bar sold both Irish beer and Italian wine, essentially stealing business from both sides. Once those people caught on, they'd definitely come to cause trouble. Stack was finally persuaded by Mary and agreed to let her talk to the three white people, but for safety Stack gave Mary a pistol for protection. Mary quickly noticed something was off about Remick and hastily pulled out the pistol she'd hidden beforehand, but humans were no match for vampires. On the other side, Sammy's performance that night only strengthened his resolve to pursue his musical dreams. Upon hearing this, Smoke recommended he try going to Mound Bayou, one of the earliest independent black towns in the U.S., where everything was owned by black people. In fact, the twins had tried to make a living in Mound Bayou years earlier, but their father's terrible reputation had made the mayor unwelcoming to them.
live with the proper black folks. Leave all this here improper shit to us.
Sammy didn't want to go to Mount Bayou alone. He preferred to make his way in Chicago. In any case, no one noticed Mary's odd behavior. Matty easily allowed her to enter the bar again, then grabbed someone to cover his shift and went out to relieve himself. As for Mary, she gave Reming's gold coins to Stack and pestered him to be intimate with her.
So you rob trains and banks, but you can't steal this pussy for a night.
So Stack followed Mary into the storage room. Just then Smoke encountered a man cheating at dice who'd stabbed his customer with a razor, so he personally led a group to deal with him. Then he sent Sammy to fetch Stack. Unlucky Sammy opened the storage room door to find an inappropriate scene. He could only go report to his cousin. Smoke immediately burst in upon hearing this, only to find Mary biting Stack. He quickly snapped out of it, pulled out his twin pistols and shot Mary full of holes, but the latter laughed as she got back up. Mary said, "We're going to kill everyone here tonight," then ran out of the bar and vanished into the night. Smoke ignored the madwoman and quickly covered Stack's bleeding neck, but his brother still slowly lost his breath. Anthony could only drive the bar's customers out first. It was Annie who first realized, no human could survive being shot multiple times. We should move Stack's body out immediately, and keep all the customers inside. But Smoke refused to abandon Stack's body. Seeing how things had turned out, Grace just wanted to go home to her daughter. She urged her husband to go start the car, but no sooner had John gone out than Maddie returned from using the restroom.
Alright, well, let me in so I can help.
Hold on.
Annie realized something was wrong. Since when had Maddie become so polite? He'd even asked for permission before entering. Maddie didn't explain why he'd insisted on permission. Even Smoke realized he was acting strangely. Maddie said, "Fine, if you won't let me in, at least pay me my wages for today." The shot Maddie quickly climbed to his feet. Annie pulled Smoke into the room and shut the door. Just then knocking came from the locked storage room. Stack had actually come back to life and awakened. He pleaded through the door, unable to bear his brother's suffering. Smoke was about to go get the key from Annie. The next second Stack burst through the door. Annie quickly splashed him with pickled garlic. Stack's skin sizzled and he screamed in pain as he fled the bar. Annie thus confirmed that Stack and the others had become vampires. Grace realized John was still outside and tried to go find her husband, but Annie and the others stopped Grace from risking her life. "John is smart, he'll definitely protect himself. And if we just hold out until sunrise, we can leave this bar." The top priority was to prepare more garlic with silverware and holy water. Annie had heard rumors about vampires, humans only transformed after being bitten and dying. Now Stack and Mary were just puppets of their creator. Their souls were trapped in their bodies. The only thing we can do for Stack is kill his already dead body to free his soul from the curse. Sammy felt deeply guilty upon hearing this. His father had warned him that his singing could attract demons. Smoke of course didn't blame Sammy. He vowed to kill Remick that night and avenge Stack. Just then the female singer helping at the bar saw a bitten corpse behind the counter. Smoke and Sammy rushed to carry the body out and dispose of it before it awakened. Just then vampire singing came from not far away. It turned out Remick had transformed all the people who'd left the bar into his kind. The vampires danced to Irish jigs outside awaiting their feast that night. Inside the bar, Annie feared there might still be vampires among them, so she forced everyone to eat a raw garlic clove to prove they weren't. The female singer hated garlic and refused. Smoke immediately pointed his gun, "Eat the garlic or take a bullet." The singer frowned and swallowed it. When it was Anthony's turn, he suddenly acted strangely, but showed no sign of burning. Anthony claimed he was just nauseous from drinking too much beer. Just then knocking came from outside. It was a guest who'd been sick and was returning from the restroom. Unfortunately, before Smoke could open the door, the guest was tackled and bitten by Maddie. Then John approached from the parking lot calling for his wife to join him and leave. He didn't care that Maddie was biting a living person beside him. Grace realized her husband had also become a vampire. Sure enough, the instigator Remick soon appeared and ordered them to surrender. "The world has abandoned you. Whites won't let you build homes or unite your people. Why not join the vampire family and become one forever?" Remick could share the memories of every transformed person. He threatened Grace, "If you don't let us in, I'll go home and kill your lovely daughter. Of course, if you refuse to invite vampires in, you must hand over Sammy," because Remick longed to see his kind again, and Sammy's gift could awaken sleeping souls. Not to mention he was a musician. Remick admired Sammy's exceptional talent. But Smoke, who had already lost one brother, would never hand over Sammy. Remick lost patience and retorted, "How long do you think you can protect them? This place is far from safe. The man who sold you this sawmill is actually the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, and Bert is his nephew. No matter how much money or how many guns you have, they'll take it all when they want. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time." Stack also chimed in to tell Smoke that Remick wasn't lying. He could see the memories of Bert and his wife. The Klan had deliberately sold the sawmill to lure black people together for a massacre, so either way it's death. Why not become a vampire and accept eternal life?
we was never gonna be free. This is the way. Together. Forever.
Smoke still maintained his sanity and wasn't deceived, but Grace couldn't let her daughter be killed and didn't want to keep hiding. She bit Smoke and clutched her hand, shouting, "You bastards, come in if you dare." So all vampires received the invitation. The group could only take up arms to fight back. Chaotic massacre erupted. Grace was burned to a crisp. As Annie fought, she realized any injury to Remick would be felt by all his converts. Before she could finish, she was tackled by Stack. With the help of the female singer, Smoke broke free from Remick and rushed to check on Annie, but the woman left only one sentence before dying: "Ask Smoke to kill me with his own hands before I turn." Mary hadn't expected Annie's resolve to be so firm and instantly halted her killing. Anthony woke the stunned Smoke and urged him to take Sammy and leave immediately, while he slit his wrist to hold back the remaining vampires. Poor Anthony was torn apart and eaten by countless vampires. On the other side, Remick blocked Sammy, who was trying to escape. Smoke rushed to pin Remick down. In a critical moment, the female singer grabbed a wooden stake and stabbed Remick in the shoulder, but a vampire couldn't be killed without piercing its heart. Finally, the female singer was bitten and transformed. Smoke took the opportunity to shoot Remick and told Sammy to run toward the rising sun. The latter jumped out the back window and limped eastward, but Remick soon gave chase. Smoke tried to save Sammy but was held back by Stack. As the two brothers fought fiercely, Remick slapped Sammy into a pond with one hand. He grabbed the boy's neck and prepared to bite. In despair, Sammy suddenly began reciting the prayers his father had taught him, but Remick wasn't afraid of these doctrines. Long ago, the villains who seized his father's land had forced them to accept these teachings. They used lies to numb themselves and deceive us, making up tales of gods in heaven and demons in hell. But God can't save you tonight. We are the earth, the Holy Spirit, and the gods. As soon as he finished speaking, Sammy grabbed his guitar and smashed it over Remick's head. Stack had said this guitar belonged to Charlie Patton, the father of Delta Blues. Stack had won it in a card game and given it to young Sammy, who knew it would save Sammy's life. Remick was completely enraged. In the nick of time, Smoke finally overpowered Stack and drove a wooden stake through Remick's heart. In an instant, all vampires let out cries of pain and turned to ashes together in the sunrise. As he lay dying, Remick felt the warmth of the sun again, before dissolving into a burst of flame and vanishing completely. Though the dark enemy had been vanquished, the problem of the Ku Klux Klan remained unsolved, so Smoke told Sammy to bury the guitar and go home immediately.
I can't. It's Charlie Patton.
Lying son of a bitch. That's our daddy guitar.
Sammy returned home with the broken guitar. While Smoke charged toward the Ku Klux Klan with his weapons, he single-handedly wiped out almost all its members but was severely wounded himself. Finally, Smoke caught up with the Klan's leader and sent him out of this world with his own hands. In his fading consciousness, Smoke saw Annie and their son waiting for him to reunite with them. Sammy was the only survivor of the disaster. Stumbling, he burst into a church. His father told him to throw away the guitar and return to the right path, but Sammy asked himself, could he still give up blues music? Later, Sammy traveled to Chicago alone and became the person he wanted to be. The actor who guest starred as the elderly Sammy is none other than Buddy Guy, a highly influential American blues musician. The film ends with the sound of his guitar. The film has received continuous praise since its release. In fact, after watching the entire film, one can realize that vampires are merely the most superficial imagery. It's a direct metaphor for white racism, referring to the white appropriation and assimilation of black cultural achievements, and assimilated black slaves became accomplices, dancing Irish jigs in unison with the vampires. But the protagonist persisted in playing blues music, a genre that originated from the suffering and traditional spirituals of black people. The blues bar representing paradise in the film is destroyed overnight, reflecting the collective trauma in black history, but fortunately there is still the round dance of suffering to accompany. Blues never die and the nation is eternal. Those two climactic dance scenes can be called the most wonderful moments in the film. Overall, this film is similar to Get Out, both using the shell of genre films to tell the painful history of black people. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to it.